So I'm going to give you all the easy bits first, which is to lay out your vision, your CV. As I said, that very few people get to literally shape a state as it is born. So when you occupied that chair and your father was the CM, what were the big, compelling issues that drove you to, and what did you do over the 9 years that you're really proud of?
Firstly, thank you. Thank you for hosting this lovely event, and I was blown away when you were speaking so eloquently about Johnny Walker, and then I realized we were talking about water. Well done. When you get a fresh start, it's very, very difficult. It's very, very rare that in life and in politics or any sphere of life, you get a chance to begin afresh without the burden of legacy. So when you do get that opportunity, where you don't have the burden of legacy on you, you can really reorient, rethink, re-strategize, rebrand, and do a lot of things that you would want to do in life. And that's exactly where we began in 2014. When the state of Telangana, which has its own story, its own story full of struggle, sacrifice, and dignity, and many, many other elements, eventually became a reality in 2014. Our goal was very, very clear. We wanted this state to be the lighthouse for the rest of the country. We wanted to prove a point not just to ourselves, but also to the rest of the country, which kept saying, this probably won't be a viable state. But today, as I sit here in Chennai, and as I talk about my state, while I may not be in government anymore for the last 2 years, I'm filled with a sense of pride. And the reason why I say that is because I firmly believe Telangana is the most successful startup state of independent India. Now, why do I say that? Our per capita in 2014, when we began our journey, was about 1,14,000 rupees. And when we left the office in 2023 December, our per capita, we were ranked number 14 in the country in 2014. But in 2022-23, when we left office, we were the number 1 state in India with 3,87,000 rupees of per capita. Thank you. Our gross state domestic product was 4.5 lakh crore in 2014. It tripled and it became 15 lakh crore in 2023. Again, highest growth rate for any state in India. More importantly, I know all of you all, have phones. All of you all have, are very addicted to social media. So if I may indulge them for a minute, I'd say, please, if you can pull out your phone for a second, maybe just open Google or ChatGPT, just to give you an example of what we've done and how we've benchmarked ourselves. Please type in, if you can, the world's largest lift irrigation project. The world's largest lift irrigation project. I'm not talking India's largest, but the world's largest. Any answers? Anybody? Yeah. I thought these guys would be very, very trigger happy, but... Yeah. Anybody? Yes, sir.
But you can be faster than ChatGPT right
Absolutely,
now.
I am faster than ChatGPT. Well, this is a project called Kaleshwaram. It's based in Telangana. It irrigates about 45 lakh acres of land. And this has been a game changer for Telangana's rural economy and agriculture. In fact, we were ranked number 12 in India on agriculture produce. Today, we are ranked number 1, surpassing Punjab and Haryana in paddy production. Now, we've benchmarked ourselves against the best in the world. World's largest innovation campus is in Hyderabad. You can Google that too. World's largest Amazon campus is also in Hyderabad. So our growth has been across sectors. If you look at our rural development model, we have consecutively won 30% of national awards on the National Panchayati Raj Divas. 3% of India's population winning 30% awards. So it's a very unique model. I have to say,
you've also been very successful with organic farming, which Sri Lanka was not. Had a disastrous experience with that, but you haven't.
Absolutely. So the growth has been all round. The growth has been inclusive. The growth has been multi-sectoral. And as a result, for 9.5 years, despite COVID, despite demonetization, despite a lot of decisions that didn't go very well for us, still we were able to maintain the growth momentum. We actually ended up, giving a run to even Bangalore as Hyderabad. Gave Bangalore a run for their money in terms of creating technology jobs as well. We beat Bangalore 3 quarters in a row, which has never happened in India's history. So I'm very proud of my state and what we've done. But yes, like you said,
here comes the slam question,
Yes.
right? So I'm going to take you to a national perspective also. But before that, yes, having done all of this, and there isn't dispute that you did it, of course, there's a lot of criticism whether this was evenly distributed, whether it really went down or it didn't, but not for intention and not for vision, people wouldn't critique you at all. But even the fact that you were attempting to do this on a blank slate, why would you lose an election? So what would the introspection and correction lead you to?
I tell you what, just to draw a parallel, for those of you who follow politics and for those of you who follow electoral politics. In 2014, we had won 63 seats out of 119 in Telangana. We formed the government because the magic figure was 60. In 2018, we actually went 4 months ahead of our general election. We won 88 out of 119. And in 2023, we won 39 out of 119. And the margin of difference between my party and Congress, which won the election, was hardly 1.8%. But of course, first past the post, even if it is by 0.1%, they've still won the election. Just to draw a parallel, if you think about it, Prime Minister Modi has won in 2014, I think, with 278 or something, BJP. And then in 2008-19, they won 303.
True, KTR. But I don't, KTR, I don't.
Coming to.
I don't want to lose people with the numbers,
Okay.
but just the heart of it, that if you were on such a good trajectory, in retrospect, what do you think you didn't get right?
Two things. I think the short-term, perception that was created that, Congress is going to come out with the political panacea in the form of 6 guarantees and 420 plus promises. See, Shoma, if I have to answer in one line, economic bankruptcy of ordinary Indians is real. Intellectual bankruptcy of political class is real. And that's a deadly cocktail. Economic bankruptcy and intellectual bankruptcy. And Congress, when it comes out and makes a promise that they are going to deliver the moon, which is possibly going to cost at least 3 budgets in 1 year, if I have to add up. Yet people bought into that, some of them, and therefore the difference was 1.8%, we lost. But I don't look at defeat as a major, loss of face or something. It's a mirror. I mean, if you think about it, it just tells you probably what went wrong, probably what could be improved, what could be corrected. So yes, there are areas which, of course, we have to improve. There are areas which probably where perception needs to be corrected. And there are areas where we could probably continue to build. So
introspective political leader is just the rarest of creatures. So when you're saying that there are things that could be fixed, what would those be? And the reason I'm probing you for that is because if you come up with some of those answers, I think it would link across political parties. And like I said, I want you to take you to a national perspective.
Sure. I think one of the things that we didn't do right, of course, was I think the perception that was created that while we were delivering in government, we were not accessible. I mean, our MLAs, probably our ministers, that is something that we could have done a better job at. Secondly, I'd say, the anti-incumbency that people talk about is real. If only we had changed maybe 15 to 20 more candidates, definitely we would have done a lot better. So I think people wanted change. People wanted probably a different face, a fresh face. That's something that we missed out on. And third and most important, of course, after 10 years, they talk about 7-year itch, but unfortunately in governments, in politics, we run a 5-year cycle. So maybe there was a 10-year itch, which also triggered this little bit of a backlash.
I'm going to park this question, but we'll come back to it then. That what do you think competitors like Mr. Modi, Patnaik, and Nitish also in Bihar, what are they doing that nobody seems to get itchy with them, So, but just for the moment, I'm going to park that question. I want to come back to your party for the moment. That, like I said, that there's been this really modernizing, vision which straddled both technology and rural, realities of Telangana. But the reason that the party has not been able to hold on to power is also a sense that, all the allegations that go to all parties across India now. One, that it's a family fiefdom. Second, that there is, tension between your sister and you, that there's, fractures within the family itself. And so I want to ask you 2 questions. One, that do you think that this is a malaise across Indian politics that actually needs deep thinking now? That you plan succession, you plan how you must, let's even forget the nepotism aspect of it, but just that how can power sharing be done in a correct way? And secondly, is there any way that parties can prevent themselves from falling into, that idea that this is a family fiefdom?
Well, tell me something. If it's okay for businesses to have successes from the family, if it's okay for other, professions also to have successes from the family. In fact, if anything, if you ask me, in politics, we are up for scrutiny every 5 years. I'm a 5-term elected MLA, When I am introduced into politics, yes, I was introduced as my father's son. But if I'm not good enough, if I'm not fit enough, if I'm not capable enough, of course people would throw me out. They have done this in this beautiful country of ours. Indira Gandhi was defeated. NTR was defeated. Several other top leaders have been defeated. So I'm a nobody when compared to them. Now, the second aspect is, of course, I'm not trying to justify how, the means to get into politics. All I'm saying is families, struggles, successions, they happen all over the place. Now, how do you get out of it? I think the only way is communication. The only way is not just communication within, but also outside. And that is something probably that we have not done well enough. Again, going back to what you said about the setback we suffered in 2023. So I have to be candid. I have to confess. Maybe yes, maybe we haven't communicated clearly enough inside and outside, and that's probably one of the reasons as well.
Yeah, and this is something that, as I said, cuts across party lines. Like you hear now that the TMC is suffering from it. Akhilesh Yadav's, lost the election because of a family feud within, that it was not consolidated. You've seen that in the Shiv Sena. You're seeing that in your party. So my question really is that if you were, I'm not just personalizing this, but looking at it that this cuts across Indian politics, that is there a way, where this could actually be professionalized? You spoke about companies, but then companies actually plan for succession, where power can be shared, where it's actually done in a professional way. Do you think that there's any scope for that in Indian politics?
Honestly, no. I don't think it is going to happen anytime soon. But yes, with lot of professionals that are coming in, especially with strategists like Prashant and others who have come to play a very, very important role in politics and also during our election cycle, there is hope, but I don't see it happening anytime soon because, essentially, end of the day, politics or any business does run from a unitary chain of command. And if the boss, the leader, is somebody who's, able to rally his troops and make sure that he also, is able to inspire confidence among people, only then it works. Otherwise, no matter how professionally you run. For example, if you take a look at two corporate entities, large infra companies. One is L&T, which is run by professionals. Another company is called Mega Engineering, based out of Hyderabad, which is almost, I think, second largest or first largest now. Mega is largely family driven. L&T is professional driven, but both are successful. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive. There are parties which are run by families, by leaders within probably a small coterie, have been successful. DMK is an example in Tamil Nadu, which has been, I think, in government or in opposition for the last 5 decades or more. And likewise, there are parties like others, which I can't name right away, which also have had a professional setup and have been doing well. So I don't think it's a, zero-sum game, end of the day.
Okay, I'm going to come back to this because there are many things, but I'm not going to quite drop this topic because it's something that certainly the BJP is able to play up against all other parties, that one, that power goes through the bloodline, and secondly...
BJP does it conveniently. When it suits them, they align with Shiv Sena, and they have no problems with their nepotist angle. When it suits them, they align with TDP. When it suits them, they align with anybody, JDS. When they'll align with anybody, and nepotism then goes for a toss. But when it doesn't suit them, of course, they'll play it up and they'll try and, drum up as much support in the media and elsewhere. So it's a very convenient posturing is what I would say.
I agree, but the only thing I would say, and we're going to come to the BJP and certainly some of the big issues on which you are critical or which concerns everybody, but would you say that the one thing that they have managed to keep up is that they keep invigorating their cadres because new people are given a chance, So even in the more family-led parties, is it not possible to give a greater range of people really powerful positions? If you go back to even within the Congress, the Nehruvian era, they really had giants across the spectrum, So why is it that it's such a narrow chokehold where people begin to feel suffocated in the family parties?
Tell me something. You think BJP is run professionally and people are given chances? I don't agree with that at all. In fact, if anything, other than Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah, I don't think anybody has any say in that party anymore. So how are they any different from any other political party in India? I don't think they are different at all. So firstly, I don't agree with the premise. And secondly, yes, I do see a great scope. I do see a great scope for specialists coming in. I do see a great scope for others coming in and also playing an important role. When you look at Tamil Nadu politics, my friend Tyaga, PTR, has done exceptionally well. He's not from the family of the chief minister, but he's done exceptionally well here. Likewise, I'm sure there are many others who've done very well in various parties, including our party. So I don't see it as a broad generalization that BJP has done certain things very well, which others have not been able to. I think most parties are very, very similar if you look closely.
Okay, so just one more persistent question on this is that, do you think that just handling even a feud within the family with better optics, with more accommodation, would make people feel reassured? Because there is this sense, even say with Rahul Gandhi, when he couldn't keep even his friends within the party, there's a sense that if you can't manage your own brood, then how can you manage a country and all the contrapuntal energies that come there, So again, in that mood for introspection, do you think that this entire thing could have been handled better?
You know what? Every family in the world, no matter where they are, will have challenges. In fact, one of the toughest situations in life is to align expectations within a close group of friends or family. So yes, in retrospect, could things have been handled better? Of course, I would say yes. But is it something that I would be avoiding in future? I don't know, because you will continue to run into issues. You will have to manage. See, there are three challenges when it comes to expectations. Alignment of expectations of what you want versus what I can offer. Management of people. And more importantly, in politics, especially within a closed family or even a close group of people, management of resources. Now, this is what leads to a lot of discontent. This is what leads to a lot of unfortunate situations. I would say, yes, in retrospect, things could have been done better. But that's how life is. You have to take what you served.
Right. Okay, I'm going to move away from this a little bit. To come back to your vision for Telangana just for a moment, because I think that's very pertinent for the rest of the country, is that, there's technologies hurtling towards us. There's AI coming. The year that Google put $10 billion into OpenAI, they actually laid off 10,000 people. So there's a sense that there's going to be massive layoffs, that as we embrace more AI, both blue-collar jobs as well as white-collar jobs are going to be jeopardized. So, in that sense that you've got a chance to envision a future for a state that did not have a legacy, with this kind of, tornado of technology coming once way, both opportunity and risk, what is your big picture thinking, if you're voted back to power, what is the gear shift that you will do now, if you're voted back to power, to plan for this new economic era?
The first thing is, I'll start off with, your last point where you said this is a new economic era. India has always been sitting on the cusp of greatness. We've always been told that, we were a great country and we definitely will become great again. We keep talking numbers. The fact is, we have the world's largest think force, the world's largest workforce. Now, how do you convert this intellectual capacity into economic prosperity? That's been the big leap of faith that unfortunately did not happen in many parts of India. Now, in my state, if I have to stick to my state, because that's where I worked for the last 9.5 years, in 2014, we had only 323,000 employees in technology sector. But with policy interventions, with interesting, interventions such as T-Hub, T-Works and others, India's largest prototyping facility, etc., we were able to multifold, had a manifold jump from 3 lakh plus to almost 1 million. Now, how did that happen? Because we kept investing in newer sectors. We kept investing on new technologies. Now, with AI looming large, with everybody talking about potential job loss. In fact, as I was flying into Chennai this morning, I was seated next to a gentleman who heads L&T Mindtree. So when I asked him about this imminent threat, imminent challenge of job loss, he said, it's a bit overplayed. This was his perspective. He said it's a bit overplayed. It was like how most of the restaurants and service industries got rid of their employees because during COVID, because they said, we don't see any hope of bouncing back in the near future. A lot of hotels were sold, a lot of hospitality industry, took a major hit. But then when it became fully functional again, it was very, very difficult to find talent. So what I would say is, in this so-called AI, which is looming large, like you said, AI threat, I would say there's a huge opportunity for India, especially a country like India, where you have tremendous opportunity where, India's, for the last 2.5, 3 decades, we've been the high-value, low-cost human capital destination for Americans, for Europeans and others. That edge you will still have for another 20 years. That is not something that you're going to lose in the next 2 decades at least in the high-value sector. So therefore, I would bet big on all the applications of AI into various sectors, be it life sciences, be it healthcare, be it aerospace. As long as you're able to find that convergence point, I think India will still do great. Deep tech, India will still do amazing. So the potential job loss that people talk about is, of course, real, but I think it would affect the first world more than India or any other second, third world countries. So at this point in time, if I was voted back to government in Telangana, the first thing I would do is make sure that we equip our children, because only 30% of our STEM graduates every year who come out of colleges are employable. The biggest challenge is industry readiness of our workforce. That is something where we have to work together with the industry. That is something we haven't done well. Germany has done phenomenally well, where they have a dual degree, where you get to go to a practice school in the industry for about 6 months. That is the sort of focus I would put on. So rather than worry too much about AI and how it would impact us immediately, I would say focus more on the convergence points, focus on creating value additions and more jobs. And that is something I would focus on if I were to vote it.
So then I'd flip the coin and ask you that, is India taking its technological destiny seriously enough? Are we still too embedded in the old ideas of, sort of more labor-intensive manufacturing, which may go away? We've been seeing big industry coming, but it's more automated, so jobs finally aren't created. So do you think that India is in fact then doing enough to embrace its technological destiny?
Absolutely not. We've been very, very happy with what has been happening. Just to give you an example, in mid-1980s, China and India, we were on the same path, literally same point in terms of GDP. In fact, at one point, India in early 1980s, India was a larger GDP, larger economy than China. But look at them now. 40 years later, they're 6 times bigger. They're 20 trillion economy. We're still languishing at about 3.8, 3.9 trillion. What went wrong? What happened? If you think about it, I think Chinese have realized that stability in terms of policy and in terms of long-term impact, discipline, scale, these are the things that matter. So they chose economics as their playbook. And we chose politics of identity, politics of various forms as our immediate goal, I guess. As a result, today China's 6 times bigger. We missed the bus big time on that. Indonesia.
They're 13,000, GDP. I mean, per capita GDP.
We are 2,200, and the US is 86,000. So point is, even Indonesia, Vietnam have figured this out. Even they have become new age, modern countries which look at manufacturing and scale. Unfortunately, India has not been doing that, despite good slogans, Make in India, Digital India, etc. So therefore, we are definitely not doing enough. We're definitely not doing justice to our potential. There is so many things I can tell you that need to be corrected. But one thing I will say, imagine if one state, Telangana, can become, within 9.5 years, the state with the highest per capita. Prime Minister keeps talking about double engine. I don't think double engine would work. You need 28 states, 28 engines revved up, 28 engines doing really well, 28 engines powering off in a big way, to be able to, and play to their strengths, of course. Tamil Nadu is a coastal state, has a huge coastline. How do you leverage that? Telangana is landlocked. How do you leverage the opportunities there? Madhya Pradesh has other potential. So if 28 engines are working simultaneously, then you would actually get to that 2047 point where you would probably be a first world or a second world country at least. So unless that happens, unless we're stuck on the double engine mode, I don't think things are going to change.
And like you famously said that, and right now coming from Delhi, I can tell you the double engine feels like a failed engine.
No, it's a four. In Delhi, you have 4 engines, by the way. In case you forgot, you have the Lieutenant Governor, you have Delhi government, you have the municipal corporation, you have the union government. all powered by one party, yet air quality is terrible. So you figure.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, you know, not only double engine, but the Prime Minister right now saying "Mausam ka maza lijiye" was really salt on very, very deep wound, you know. So that doesn't feel good. And like you famously said, I'm going to take you there to some of the
Now
more...
I know why you do these shows more in Chennai and less in...
No, and like you said, double engine is sometimes jumla, sometimes hamla. So, you know, I'm going to give you a chance to air all those salty things as well. But just one more before that is that, you know, I want to talk about the North-South divide, again, the state of the opposition, all of those things, the language wars that, you know, are playing themselves out across the country. But you've been very, very visionary, KTR, about focusing on systems being really important. And I want to ask you two questions. One is that, you know, you just said parties have to be kind of unitary leadership. And it's in India, we're actually becoming presidential more than parliamentary. So is there a kind of tension between creating a system that will last, or is it necessarily personality-based? You know, you were just saying when we were having tea that Hyderabad and the GDP of Telangana is already dipping. And I asked you, what can have happened in 2 years that you did such wonderful work for 9 years and in 2 years it's already going down? Did you not set enough systems in place then?
Absolutely not. But if you mess with the system, of course, it's gonna. If you derail a system deliberately, it's gonna have its negative impact. Fact is, you know, politicians, political class, governments, parties, we are all temporary. We are all transient. None of us are here. See, I am supremely glad that we've been given 9.5 years of opportunity to govern. If I end up thinking that, you know, I'm going to be there forever, I'm an idiot. I'm a very greedy idiot at that. So therefore, today, if you ask me what should have been done and what has been done, I would say, I think one of the things we've done brilliantly, we have put institutions above individuals. We've created institutions that will outlast individuals. We have created processes that will outlive people. So, for instance, just to again, you know, when we talk disruption, a lot of people think disruption can only happen in the tech world. No, disruption can even happen in governance, disruption can even happen in platforms like this. So therefore, in Telangana, we came out with some policy disruptions, just as an example. Any of the industrialists here who have a business in Telangana would know that we promise all clearances in 15 days. Now, but this is by statute. And if you don't deliver on the 15-day window, on the 16th day, it's a deemed approval. The same bureaucrat who's been a status quoist for the last 7 decades, for him, the paradigm is basically flipped on its head because of this new legislation that came in. If you don't deliver on the 15-day window, on the 16th day, the same bureaucrat can be fined a penalty of rupees 1,000 per day. Now, that is a true systemic disruption that has really changed Telangana's landscape in terms of industrialization. Likewise, we have created many such institutions, we have created many such systems, but of course, any system, any book, any constitution even, is only as good as the person holding it or as good as the person running the country or the state. Can you make a negative impact using the same system? Of course, yes, and that's what is seen in Telangana today. So therefore, I would humbly say that maybe freezing, maybe not allowing the political class to tamper with, not allowing them to poke their nose where it doesn't belong, is something that Indians have to impress upon our lawmakers, impress upon our governments. Like Thomas Paine very, very famously said, Shoma, every patriot's primary responsibility, primary duty, and primary allegiance to the country is to save his country from its government. That is something we all need to agree on, be it the state government here or the central government there. We cannot allow them to mess with it. And that is something I am truly offended by as to what Congress is doing in Telangana.
Yeah. You're giving a very easy segue actually to the next session. Not that we are stopping now, but that you know, Arvind and Devesh's thesis is that they've taken a Hippocratic oath that do no harm, you know, even if you don't know how to do some good, do no harm to the economic and political system. But let me now come to the state of the opposition. You know, we're going to have a series of very important elections in Bengal, in Tamil Nadu. You know, there's this...
Kerala.
Yes, and there's this whole sense that the BJP is really a juggernaut that cannot be beaten. Let's, for a moment, not critique them. I will allow you that. But what is going on with the opposition? You know, why is the opposition in a state in India where they just can't seem to not only not do good, but also do harm at the same time, you know? Why is it that the Mahagathbandhan doesn't hang together? Why is India become just an acronym, you know? Why are you not making common cause? Even in Parliament right now, there's been all of this discussion about the SIR and the electoral rolls, but the opposition is not even agreed on whether this is a big enough issue to take on the government on or not. What do you think is the biggest problem facing all of you who are in opposition right now?
Well, you know, I can't speak as a representative of the opposition because, you know, the fundamental thing with us is we can't sit together and we can't talk together. See, for instance, the lack of unity is the biggest challenge. For instance, I'm fighting Congress in my state and BJP in my state. And then when it comes to union politics or politics in Delhi, we are asked to pick sides. We're asked to pick, you know, whether you want to battle Congress or BJP. Now, my point is, if I'm fighting Congress in the state and BJP in Delhi, I'm still opposition, effectively. But what went wrong, if you ask me, like you said, you know, with respect to BJP and the opposition, I'd say Congress is the largest party today in the opposition. They've failed to enthuse people, they've failed to modernize, they've failed to organize, then they've failed to present a credible alternative nationally. That's beyond doubt. And that is why BJP is getting away without any serious scrutiny. BJP is able to, you know, win election after election because the biggest asset of Prime Minister Modi, if you ask me, is Mr. Rahul Gandhi himself. That is the reality. You can see it. So the point is, unless Congress wakes up from its deep slumber, modernizes, organizes itself, and presents itself in a form that people are able to appreciate, not much is going to change. Yes, there will be regional forces, like Mr. Stalin here or the AIA, DMK, who are able to hold off Congress and BJP in their state in Tamil Nadu. And I really salute the people of Tamil Nadu for basically challenging the central overreach, if you ask me, you know, from both central parties. Be it West Bengal, where Didi has shown that, you know, she's able to hold off BJP. Even in Telangana, we were able to hold off BJP and Congress for 10 years and we lost by a whisker in the last election. So it is the strong regional parties that have been able to hold off, including Kejriwal, who's won 3 terms on the trot. The biggest letdown for this country right now, since 1996 or post that, has been the Congress party, without a question. Because they're the ones who've not been able to build a coalition. They're the ones who don't seem to get off their high horse, cannot seem to understand that their days... See, look at Bihar. What went wrong? See, in Bihar, Congress is a fringe party. In Tamil Nadu, they're a fringe player. But they do not want to accept the fact. I'm sure we'll talk about how they troubled DMK in April 2026. Because the Congress always wants to bite more than what it can chew. And then eventually it helps the opposition. That's how it works all the time. Having said that, now, what is that glue that can bind us together? See, for instance, if us in Telangana and Stalin in Tamil Nadu and Didi in... We tried, by the way, my father tried very, very hard to stitch up a credible third front or a federal front, as he called it. But what we realized is there isn't anything that's binding us together other than probably a little bit of... not animosity, but probably a little bit of a common enemy kind of a factor. That is not something that is going to work in long term. So that is the biggest challenge with India. Our diversity sometimes also ends up being our challenge. So I'd say that's the biggest problem with opposition today.
So, but then that's the big question that, you know, like you said, that the common enemy with a lot of these parties is the BJP. And I'll ask you to enumerate what about them makes them an enemy. But the other question, and very, very crucially attached to that, is that what is the alternate vision? You know, you're saying the Congress doesn't have a vision, but let's assume that you were in Rahul Gandhi's place today. What is it that you would do which actually presents an alternative vision for India, economically, you know, imaginatively, politically, that is radically different from what the BJP is doing?
See, caste is not the answer to the religion, you know, vertical that BJP has latched onto. Unfortunately, Rahul Gandhi has been advised by his advisors, I guess, that, you know, to beat BJP at its own game, which basically is polarization in the name of religion, you have to latch onto caste. And that's why he keeps talking about caste censors and how jitna abadi, utna hak, etc., etc. Somehow it has gotten into his system that this is the answer. That's not. See, like I said, Prime Minister Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, today is remembered for building institutions like IITs and IIMs. Tell me one institution that Congress has built post Prime Minister Nehru's era. I mean, there are a few which Indira Gandhi has done, but beyond that, I don't see much happening. What is the vision of Rahul Gandhi for this country till 2047? He's probably 53, 54 now. Other than sense of entitlement, I don't see much coming from Rahul Gandhi ever. See, again, don't get me wrong when I say this. What would I do? I would focus on creating more economic clusters in India. Today, if you look at India as a country, we have about 10 or 12 economic engines that are driving the prosperity in this country. Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, and of course other metros, Bombay, Delhi, and Kolkata, and many others, Ahmedabad, etc. Have we ever seen Rahul Gandhi present a vision of how this economic prosperity can be converted into jobs, how these economic clusters can focus each of them on a separate sector, and how our institutions, the world-class institutions that we do have, the IITs, the IIMs, and even the universities, how we can scale them up and really convert this knowledge into prosperity, the young think force which has global aspirations today. I don't see Rahul Gandhi talking about startups. I don't see him talking about innovation. I don't see him talking about world-class universities and pumping more money into research and development. This is what I would start talking. But will it win me elections? I don't know at this point in time, honestly, again. But end of the day, though, as long as you get to play a role in politics, you know, being in public service, public life itself is a huge privilege, Shoma, be it in opposition or be it in government. When in power, you deliver. When in opposition, you listen. So therefore, I think both responsibilities you have to accept with humility, and you have to continue to build the narrative, continue to build the momentum. Given an opportunity, I would recreate, one straight answer. I would recreate what we have done in Telangana in 9.5 years across India. That's what I would do, and that would be the magic pill if you ask me.
You know, that's a very interesting answer, and I actually want to push you further on that. So you said on an economic vision, you know, but the Congress has also not been able to revitalize its imaginative or the big picture story, which is, you know, in any way, there are enough people who perhaps don't like the BJP vision.
I don't think even the Congress is talking so much about themselves as much as we are talking about them.
But you just place them as the nodal, you know, I was trying to bring you...
Unfortunate, but that's the reality. You know, they are this albatross which keeps hanging around India's opposition's neck. We can't seem to get rid of them. But at the same time, they have become an unfortunate indispensability for this country. And I think, if you ask me, state after state, if Congress is thrown out, I think that would offer a lot of strong regional forces which will truly come in onto their own and start offering credible alternative to BJP.
So then let me ask you, how do you see the future of India panning out? You know, do you see the BJP running all the way down to the south? Or do you see more federal forces coming up, like you're saying? Do you see the Congress atrophying? Now that you're having a chance to listen and to reflect, what do you see going forward?
I don't think BJP is going to be able to make a huge inroad into South. While they've had their opportunity in Karnataka, they've lost it. I don't see them bouncing back in the South, at least. You know, I think we have a lot of political parties which are extremely aligned and extremely hands-on with respect to local aspirations and local demands in the South. Be it the Dravidian parties in Tamil Nadu, or be it us in Telangana. In Andhra, we have YSRCP and TDP and Janasena. So likewise, in Karnataka also we have regional parties. So therefore, in South, I don't see a great deal happening for BJP. But I do sense a certain element of despondency that's also creeping in the BJP system as well, because they've just lost 37 parliament seats in Uttar Pradesh. That must have given them a scare. They must be worried. So they will start looking at newer areas, Bengal, Tamil Nadu, which are all going up for elections next year. So what I do hope, in 2024, people of India gave BJP a scare. And I hope people of Tamil Nadu, people of West Bengal, and people of Kerala give them a resounding message in 2026 that politics of partisanship, politics of polarization on religious lines will be rejected in every form, and all three states hopefully will vote against BJP and vote for strong regional parties. And that will send a resounding message across the country that this sort of politics is not acceptable and that this sort of polarization is not acceptable. Hopefully that will set the trend for 2029.
So, let's not say that, I don't want to make you the sort of ventriloquist for the Congress, but I'm just want to, because you put out a vision right now about the economic clusters, that just in case you had to be the chief opposition leader right now, again, is there a way that you would spell out a different vision for India, which is not the BJP's vision, but which is not just saying that, you know, they're communal? What is the positive vision that you're putting out, which people could buy into?
Like I said, you know, fundamentally, we've been told forever that, you know, we were a great nation, we have great potential. Unfortunately, if we don't translate that potential into reality, if we don't translate that, you know, great opportunity into reality, we're doing grave injustice, not just to ourselves, but future generations as well. So the one thing I would do differently, if given an opportunity as chief opposition, there is 70,000 TMCs of water in India today, running across our rivers, in the Gangetic Plains, in Yamuna, in Kaveri, in Krishna, Godavari. The first thing I would do is create a master plan for India in terms of how these 70,000 TMCs of water can be leveraged for the 40 crore acres of arable land in India, and how, in a meaningful fashion, in less than 3 or 4 years, within a 5-year span, how each of these infrastructure projects can create manifold wealth for our farmers. That's the first thing I'd present. Secondly, I do a potable drinking water connection into every home has become a reality in Telangana. No other state in India so far has delivered on that promise. I would promise within 3 to 4 years a potable drinking water connection to each and every home. Our urban agglomerations such as Chennai and Hyderabad have the humongous potential to create economic prosperity for millions and millions of people. I would invest heavily in public transportation, public health, public education, and create an agenda, basically, which will not only add infrastructure, but also create great deal of, you know, economic prosperity and millions of jobs. Lastly, I would say, you know, that famous John F. Kennedy saying, which goes, you know, a lot of people think America has great infrastructure because it has good, you know, it is rich. But it's in fact the exact opposite. America is rich because it has great infrastructure. There is no substitutes. Today, just to give you an example, Shoma, Canadian Pension Fund is investing heavily in India. The Life Insurance Corporation of India has almost, my friend Tyaga was here somewhere, I think has more than 50 lakh crores of deposits sitting somewhere in the bank. A Canadian pension fund is being invested into infrastructure, public transport, metros, etc. in India. But Indian pensioners' money is laying eggs in our banks here. Why are we not able to judiciously use what is at our disposal? Not only our pension funds, but several other humongous assets which are heavily underleveraged. India needs bold, future-ready, progressive politics of development. You know, development has to become a policy, not an election season politics. So if you were to ask me, I would lay out my agriculture agenda, my energy agenda, my urban agenda, my rural agenda, and probably go to each and every sector, hold town halls in each and every large metro, small metro, and probably try and deliver as much as I can in terms of premise and promise.
Thank you so much. You know, as I was laughing that the last time I did a session with PTR, he got a standing ovation in Delhi, and that didn't go too well for him. So I hope that your visionary statements here don't boomerang on you. But
no, I hope he wins back. You know, people like him, honestly, people like him are a must in Indian politics. People like him should win back. And it should not look like, because see, it should not look like somebody who's got that intellectual capacity cannot come back electorally. And that would really be a huge setback. So I do hope any of you voters from Madurai here, I don't know, I'm rooting for PTR there, Tyaga there, he's a dear friend of mine. So I do hope he'll win back and come back. Yeah.
Yes. Just because we have you here, you know, we're, like you said, people say that they don't like political leaders and they don't like politicians, but I'm not one of those, actually. I think it's the toughest job on the planet. And I want to ask you for a personal sort of insight that, you know, what is the most difficult thing about being a political leader?
Can I be blunt? I'm sure we're being recorded, and I'm sure this is going to go out social media and I'll be trolled heavily. Biggest challenge, unfortunately, in India is to put up with our mediocre bureaucracy. They're extremely status quoist, they're resistant to change, And they live and thrive in ambivalence and ambiguity. And to change them, biggest challenge. The problem is ever since License Raj, for those of you who remember License Raj, they're used to sitting in ivory towers, our bureaucrats, and people going and begging and pleading with them. Now, if you tell them to work differently and change differently and start thinking differently, they're heavily resistant. And the biggest challenge is they look at us politicians who are elected as people who are only elected for 5 years. So in his mind, the bureaucrat is thinking, okay, this guy is only here for 5 years, I'm here for 50 years. So why should I listen to him? The fact is, in a democracy, it is the dog that should wag the tail and not the tail wagging the dog. This is something I absolutely believe is the biggest challenge. And second biggest challenge in politics today, this is going to go horribly wrong, but I'm going to still say it. Our judiciary.
Is?
Judiciary. We have 5 million pending cases. And look at what they are taking up. There is no expeditious justice delivery system in India. We keep talking about ease of doing business, ease of entry into the country, ease of entry into a state. But then there should also be an ease of exit, if there is a problem. Judiciary should come to your rescue, dispute redressal mechanism should be there. That doesn't exist in our country. So therefore, these are the two biggest challenges, if you ask me. And of course, putting up with, like I said, mediocrity among bureaucracy really tops the charts.
So just one last, I would say almost hard question, is that another political leader once told me that for him, the most difficult thing was that he said, once you're in the seat of power, you're surrounded by so many sort of rent seekers that they almost make it natural for you to be corrupt, that it's just not possible. Like you almost lose your perspective and your radar on what is corrupt and what is not. So have you found it difficult to keep your radar and what is political corruption, what is personal corruption? And sadly, you spoke of the Kaleshwaram Dam as a point of pride. You asked everyone to Google it. But there's CBI cases against your party and you and your father over that very particular dam on corruption, So again, both at a philosophical level and on this particular case.
No, I'll probably start with the Kaleshwaram one first, We'll talk philosophy later. See, I'll tell you what. The funniest part is this. So this project, Kaleshwaram, like I said, is a project which irrigates 45 lakh acres. We completed it in 4 years, a record breakneck speed. Every project in India takes decades. We completed it in 4 years, in and out. Now, Congress party comes in, including the big man, Rahul Gandhi himself, comes in and starts accusing us of a 1 lakh crore scam. The entire amount of money that was spent on building this project was 92,000 crores. But Rahul Gandhi comes in and sets the narrative that this is a 1 lakh crore scam. I know that he's poor at many things, but I did not think math was one of them. Now, the problem is, somehow the narrative sticks. In India, the thing is, when you're accused...
In all fairness to them, the BJP brought them down by saying the telecom scam was a 1 lakh crore scam. And Kapil Sibal said it was a zero crore scam, So that stayed in their minds as a good political weapon.
Shoma, all I would say is, end of the day, we're all, Indians. We love our country. We may not love government of India, but we love our country. We love India. But when we have within India, when we have people like Rahul Gandhi, who's supposed to be, or who's a wannabe prime minister, who belongs to this family which has had 4 prime ministers in the country, before he speaks, he should double check, he should cross check, and he should be a leader, not a reader. He can't read scripts. Somebody gives him a script, he reads out. That's irritating, firstly. And second point is, yes, have you had temptations? Have you had, the challenge? Whether I accept it or not, when I went to meet the Chief Election Commissioner and his 2 other election commissioners recently, 2-3 months ago, when SIR in Bihar was being talked about, we are the first party in India to reach out and basically call it a farce. So when I went to him, and this was a closed door meeting, I did tell him, I said, not a single MLA, not a single MP in this country is elected within the mandatory expenditure limit that you have set. Do you know that? He said, yes. In a closed door meeting, I would say yes. The fact is, any political party which is going in for an election has to spend money. The limits today, as prescribed by Election Commission of India, are unrealistic. I would not say more than that, otherwise cases would be filed on me tomorrow. So it is a fundamental reality in India. Like I said, economic bankruptcy of our people, intellectual bankruptcy of political class is a reality. It's a deadly cocktail. Am I above it? No, certainly not. I am one among them. We are riding a tiger. Unfortunately, it's a
We are?
vicious cycle. We are riding a tiger.
Riding a tiger.
Riding a tiger because, it's a vicious cycle. For a politician, who's out of government, out of power, the fundamental objective is to come back, to crawl back. Now, how do I do that? Come out with ridiculous allegations like 1 lakh crore on a 92,000 crore project. So, am I above the pettiness of what politics has become? Not really. But at the end of the day, though, I think if you ask me, am I still willing to work with Congress or BJP on larger national issues or state issues? Of course, yes. So I think we have to start drawing lines. We have to start understanding the realities of politics. Have I been above and beyond the temptations of being in power? No, I will be honest. So therefore, yes, we have run elections. That's the way BJP and Congress has been running it, just the way DMK, Anna DMK has been running it, like any other political party in India. And I will not say that I'm running a mutt, sannyas ashram or something. We are running a political party and we have to be aligned with realities. We have certainly not been above any other party in terms of what happens in elections. But I can tell you with great deal of confidence and authority that we've been able to make an indelible impression, a very emphatic impression on my state. And it is now the Congress which is running the show, and I hope they continue to do the good work. That's all I hope.
Well, thank you very much, KTR. That was a very big and honest admission to make, but for a moment I thought this was my ring till I saw there's a price tag attached to it.
I could hold on to that for you if you want. I'm a politician, remember?
Yeah. But thank you very much. And just absolutely last question, which I wanted you to do in one line. Because, we've been sort of speaking about Rahul Gandhi and the Congress, and
oh God, we're still on this topic?
No. I was saying it's a strange situation where, you dump more on the opposition even more than the government or the ruling party. But you said earlier that there were many things that, you make the BJP a common enemy. So if you were to list 2 or 3 things that you dislike about them, but at the same time, and I had asked you that question in the beginning, what are they doing right that makes them win election after election? I think that analysis would be very interesting.
Well, the first and foremost thing is BJP has led down this country in the last 10 years, without a question, because, they made tall promises. Remember, all the promises now, at least reminding them of the promises now, even that seems like, an anti-national thing to do, so to speak. Because if I remind somebody that Prime Minister Modi promised every Indian a home by 2022 and it has not happened, I will be called an anti-national. If I remind my friends from BJP or even anybody else that Prime Minister Modi promised a 5 trillion economy by 2022, that did not happen, I'll be branded as anti-national. If I remind my BJP friends that, portable drinking water connection to each and every home did not happen, the 5 trillion economy, the farmers' income doubling, etc., none of these have been delivered. What did they deliver in the last 10 years or 11 years, so to speak? I'd say they've delivered politics of hate. They've delivered politics of divisive nature to almost every Indian home today, and politics of huge divide. So there is not a lot to like in BJP, if you ask me. Unfortunately, what works for them is one simple thing. They've mastered the art of polarizing and setting the narrative. And unfortunately, we as opposition have not been able to counter it productively and effectively. That is a hard fact. They've really mastered the art of polarization. Us versus them is a narrative that they drive brilliantly, and they're relentless, just like you, persistent. And that is something, something.
This is the first time I've been presented as a parallel to the BJP.
No, you. I wish. No, I'm saying they're as relentless, as persistent, and I'll tell you what I admire in them, though. There are a lot of things I don't like in them. They won Gujarat election. They won the Uttar Pradesh election. The very next day, they're out in a rally in Gujarat. They're relentless. I saw Chief Minister of Delhi, Rekha Gupta, leading a campaign rally for a by-election in Delhi municipality. Now you have a Chief Minister campaigning for a municipal corporation by-poll for a single division. That is unheard of. So these are the things that make BJP. You like them, hate them, they're relentless, they're always at you. They're constantly trying to up their game, and that is something we all can take draw inspiration from and take a few leaves.
in all fairness, yes, their endeavor is incredible, but I also want to say that if there was another, sort of ally of the BJP on stage, they would have trotted out a lot of numbers as well on what they've done and not done. So I just want to put that on.
They will tell you only three things. They'll talk about Pakistan, they'll talk about Bangladesh, they'll talk about Hindus and Muslims. Beyond that it is beyond their comprehension. Trust me when I say this.
Okay. Since you're the person on stage, I'm going to give you an easy ticket on that. But they would have brought up some economic figures as well. But for the moment, I'm going to park that because I'm going to invite the economists on stage.
One question, Shoma. Just on that. I want to know one thing about your 2014 to 2009. Very impressive per capita income growth and all that. How did you do on multi-dimensional poverty?
We did phenomenally well, sir.
Just for those who couldn't hear, the question was, has the growth they created, was it inclusive? Because they've never got the bottom 10% vote in Telangana.
I'm not quite sure I understand the bottom 10% question, but I'll tell you one thing. On the multi-dimensional poverty index, we are the state which has reduced highest amount of poverty. This is not my metric, you can go look it up, sir. Highest amount in the last 1 decade, number one. Number two, the bottom 10%, see, the total polled vote for my party in 2014 was about 39%. In 2018, it was 47%. So, in fact, if anything, our vote share has increased significantly, and most of it came from rural areas. And no, I don't know how to quantify that, honestly, if there is a metric. But we've been winning elections. The last one was an anomaly in my mind. We're just a 1.8% with a 4 lakh difference in a 4 crore population. I don't think that's a big setback or a big defeat. In fact, I take a lot of pride in not yielding to the temptation. When Congress was promising the moon to the people, we didn't yield to the temptation. When they said free bus for women, we didn't yield to it. We said the corporation is in losses, we're not going to do that. So had we done a few of those, maybe we could have also won elections. You know, when Prime Minister Modi says freebie culture is bad, I honestly really thought at one point maybe he's serious. But when I saw in Bihar, he gave 1.2 crore women 10,000 rupees right before the election. And he's won the election. 71% of the women. Would you call that bottom 10% coming out and voting? I don't know. But the point, sir, is the point.
Sorry, sir. I'm going to have to stop this because we are on to our next session. But KTR, thank you very much for being such a collaborative partner. Thank you so much.